We're now live, Leader.
Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon all, and I'm Rob Humby, Leader Executive Member for Hampshire 2050 and Corporate Services. And welcome to my decision day, which is currently being broadcast live on YouTube via the County Council's website. Welcome to Councillor Chad and to Councillor Collett. I can't see any other members present. I can't see Councillor Glenn. Don't think he's there.
No.
No, nobody else can see him. Okay. So welcome to everyone. We will go straight on to agenda item 1, which is local nature recovery strategy. And I think, Laura, you're presenting the paper. Over to you, please. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Leader. Yes, this is a paper regarding the local nature recovery strategy and the County Council's new responsibilities under the Environment Act to be the responsible authority to prepare a local nature recovery strategy for Hampshire, including the areas of Portsmouth and Southampton. So this is a new duty that we have. We were appointed on the 26th of June, and we basically have to prepare the strategy, which is a spatial strategy, essentially, setting out the existing habitats, opportunities for improvement, and measures that we can carry out in order to achieve nature recovery across the county. And this will feed into, there are 48 local nature recovery strategies that will be prepared across the country, and together they will make a national nature recovery network. So the purpose of the report really is just to note those new responsibilities that we have, and also give delegated authority to the Director of Hampshire 2050 to actually prepare the strategy. Okay,
Laura, thanks very much for that. This is going to be quite a significant piece of work, isn't it? And working with our partners. So I'll just go to members first. Councillor Chad, Councillor Collett, any comments or like to make on the paper?
No, welcome it and look forward to the details.
Absolutely, no, for Councillor Chad. Yeah, Laura, thank you for this. It's a sort of a paper that I think I asked the question when we looked at this previously about the amount of work that is involved, and will be reliant on our partners as well, won't we, playing their part into this. So thank you for the paper. It's a really important piece of work and quite a lengthy piece of work, I imagine, as well. So details into that. So yeah, I don't have any further questions. As Adrian said, look forward to the report. And how it then lines up with the other 47, I'd imagine. So, yeah, okay. All right, so thanks very much, Laura, for just presenting that very quickly. Thank you. So, unless I hear anything from anybody else, happy to accept the recommendations as set out in paragraphs 2 and 3 on page 5. Thank you very much. Thanks, Laura. Okay, we'll go straight on to agenda item 2, which is the Leaders Community Grants. And I think, Emma, that is you presenting that paper. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Deputy Leader and Councillor Collett. This paper is a paper of 4 parts. So there's 4 recommendations around the Leader Community Grants. The first recommendation is requesting an update to the grants criteria and guidance, and that's included in your Appendix 2. And that's really to improve the wording of the grant criteria to bring clarity to applicants, to refine our expectations around match funding, so it's clear to everybody what we expect in terms of match funding, and to clarify the position around where applications relate to activity that is really under the purview of other public authorities. The second recommendation is seeking delegation from the leader for administrative changes to applications which have previously been approved. This is in accordance with our financial procedure rules, and it's really to improve the administration and the efficiency of those minor administrative changes. Third recommendation is seeking delegated authority for the Director of Hampshire 2050, Gary, in consultation with the leader for approval of grants under £5,000 in value. Again, that brings alignment with other grants, but because this is a member control grants, we are specifically seeking your delegated authority to do that. And again, that's for expediency of applications so that we can deal with very, very small applications more quickly. We do propose to report to you in each report what applications have been approved in the previous period so that there is that transparency around that. And then the final recommendation is for the approval of 2 applications that have come to the scheme. The approval is sought under the existing grant criteria at Appendix 1, not the new one. And those 2 applications are first for Winchester Beacon for £25,000 towards a project in the region of £170,000. And the second is for Hampshire History Trust for the hire of the Great Hall, and that's £1,650,000 request. So those are the recommendations.
Okay. Yep, that's great, Emma. Thank you very much. I'm very pleased to see this paper because we've had quite a few conversations along the line in terms of the grant criteria and effectively not simplifying it, but actually making it clearer, I think, to applicants there, therefore should speed up the process, which helps them directly because they know exactly where they've got to be. There's no sort of ambiguity, isn't it or isn't it? I think that makes it much clearer, so pleased on that. I'll come to the actual grants in a minute. I just want to go to Councillor Chad, Councillor Collett, just to make sure any comments from either of you. Councillor Chad? I think no.
Nothing for me, no.
Okay, thank you. Adrian?
Yes, 2 points, if I may.
Okay.
First of all, the proposal to delegate grants of under £5,000, which I understand from officers is in line with other grant regimes within the county council. It just seems a little odd that they would be called leaders' community grants if it isn't the leader that's approving them at the decision day. And I wonder what your thoughts are on that. Perhaps more significantly than that, I've noted in recent months that we only get applications come to a decision day with positive recommendations. Now, I don't believe that's because officers are soft and just say yes to everything, quite the contrary. And clearly, if someone puts in an application that just doesn't meet the criteria, then fair enough. But anything which is in any way vague, I would have thought that would come here so that any view taken on it would be done transparently and not behind the scenes, kind of ad hoc. So again, I'd welcome your comments on that.
Okay, Emma, I'll take the first one and then probably. So I take your point about it being leaders grant, but it is myself that has approved the criteria, but also it does say in association with. So effectively it's still the leader, Adrian, but I take your point what it says, but I'm comfortable with that unless you really have a problem with it because it is still myself that approve it or Councillor Chad at the time, whoever is actually chairing at that time. So that one's okay. And I'll let you pick the second one up, Emma.
Absolutely, thank you, Councillor Collett. As you've expressed, the officer in administering the grant scheme will immediately assess the application against the criteria, and if the application doesn't meet the criteria, the application will either be at that point rejected for not meeting the criteria, or more normally we would encourage the applicant to resubmit if it's something that we do think has got legs. Where there is more of a grey area, we would probably deal with that through the briefing process so that the leader and deputy leader are consulted about their views on whether grants meet the criteria. But I can confirm that all grants that meet criteria come to decision day for consideration.
Yes, well, my concern is about where there are grey areas, which could lead to someone not getting a grant if they feel that the grey areas are areas which they really don't understand or see how they can get around, and that process is not done transparently, which goes against our normal practice on everything.
Yeah, I think what I would say there, Adrian, is that's the whole idea of sort of strengthening up the criteria to sort of remove those grey areas, I would say. I mean, you might have had a point previously, but I think post this, when we've approved this, if we do, in terms of that shouldn't be the case. But Emma, you might want to pick that up, because I know, as I said, we do have those discussions on there. But I think the criteria, or the tightening up of the criteria, should help, Emma.
I think, Leader, exactly as you say, the consultation we do with you is fairly exceptional. Normally it's much more clear cut. There are very, very few that are in that grey area, and the purpose of refining the criteria is exactly to do that and to make sure that we are clear amongst ourselves about what the criteria are asking of applicants.
Okay, perhaps we can have another look in 12 months and see how that's worked out and whether there have been grey area applications.
Certainly.
Yeah, I think that's a perfectly fair statement, Adrian, and we'll monitor that as we go through under the new criteria. It's a process I think we would have done anyway, I don't think we would have done, to make sure that we're monitoring how the change of the criteria has affected that And if it does, we can pick it up then, and quite rightly so, we can have a further conversation if we need to after that, if you're happy with that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, Emma, thank you for that. Do you want to take us on to the actual two applications, please? Will you?
So I think the two applications.
I know you mentioned, I just want to run through them again, so to be clear that everybody's clear what we're actually approving here. Yeah.
So Winchester Beacon for improvement to the night shelter in Winchester, a request for £25,000, and Hampshire History Trust, a request to hire the Great Hall for £1,650.
Yeah, sorry, I thought you were going to put detail up, but I understand you read those out before, but I understand that. Yeah, I know both of them, and I was looking to see about member support as well, and I see Councillor Hiscock has supported both of those. I know them, I've read them very well. I've actually been and visited the Winchester night shuttle, what is now the Beacon as well. So I do know that. I didn't actually know they put an application in prior to this, which is interesting, but I do know the situation we're in as well. They do some incredible work, happy to support that, as indeed the Heritage Open Days, and that's open to a lot of people. That covers an awful lot of people that can actually have access to that. So I don't have any further questions on. I just want to make sure that Councillor Chad and Councillor Collett doesn't have any questions. Councillor Chad, no, nothing for me. Adrian?
I support both of the decisions that are being proposed. I'm pleased to see the improvement in dignity that will come with the night shelter grant.
Absolutely, and that's the very thing that I'd seen previously, so I absolutely welcome as well. So yeah, okay, Emma, thank you very much, appreciate that. So I'm, without any further questions I see from anybody, very happy to accept the recommendations as set out in paragraphs 2 to 5 on page 13. Thank you very much. Okay, so we'll go on to agenda item 3, and that's Emma again, the rural programme budget approval. Emma.
Thank you, Leader. This report has two elements to it. A large proportion of the rural grant programme is approved through the normal budget setting process, but this specifically seeks approval for in the spending plan for the annual £57,000 grant to the Hampshire Association of Local Councils. And then there is another recommendation that the criteria are revised to include the ability to apply for a grant of a higher limit of £10,000 rather than £5,000, which is currently the case or has been recently the case.
Yeah, okay. So what's interesting is with that situation, we looked at altering the 10,000 to the 5,000 to see if we could increase the number of applications, and the evidence was very clear that it wasn't. So I think this is good flexibility being shown by the County Council to say, okay, we looked at that, we thought it was going to work, it didn't, and we've gone back to the original. And some of that is very logical in terms of the cost of things are at the moment and how expenses have gone up as well in terms of just the cost of materials, let alone projects as well. So, and understand the other further amounts as well. So, you know, I think that shows, as I say, good flexibility from our point of view. Ros, Adrian, anything?
Yes.
No, Ros? Yeah.
Yes, I'd just like to welcome the recommendations. I agree with you about the flexibility. That makes common sense. And also the fact that we are maintaining the level of support for HALC. I ought at this place to declare an interest that for the last 10 years I have been a vice president of HALC. Although having stood down from my local town council at the elections in May, maybe I'm not anymore, I'm not quite sure. But my interest is purely the interest of the communities involved.
Yeah, okay, and I'm sure that'll be noted as well, but you can let us know if you still are or not, Adrian. I think that'll be something you can do. Yeah, understand that, and thank you for that. And thanks, Emma, for the paper and the work that goes into that, as I say, and the details that go into those recommendations as well. And the good work that grant does actually for our rural communities. It covers a big area as well, so thank you for that. No further comments then, so happy to accept the recommendations as set out in paragraphs 2 to 3 on page 29. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Emma. Agenda item 4, appointments to outside bodies. Hang on, just on my paper up. Louise, you're covering that, are you?
Yeah, yes, thank you, Leader. There's just two appointment bodies to be for members to be appointed to. That is West of Waterlooville Forum and Kings Barton Development Forum. just to replace Gary Hughes and Councillor Stallard on number 1 and Patricia Stallard as a deputy on number 2.
Okay, so Gary Hughes has left Hampshire. I don't know why he'd want to move anywhere else, but he has done, but that's up to him, exactly.
I always thought he was strange.
Yeah, thank you for that very helpful comment, Adrian. I like that. And obviously Patricia as being chairman. So the representatives, so what we're going to do is Councillor Anne Briggs will go from deputy up to full member. And then going to appoint Councillor Ryan Brent, who is adjacent to that area in his patch, as a full member, and the deputy will be Councillor Jackie Branson for the Western Waterlooville. And the Kings Barton Development Forum, where Patricia was the deputy, appoint Councillor Dominic Hiscott for that. Very much is there as well. So I don't know, Ros, any comments, or Adrian, any comments?
I would just say that I know my colleagues Martin Todd and Jackie Porter were both hoping that they might be considered for the West of Waterlooville Forum. I can see that maybe appointing both wouldn't be appropriate, but I'm disappointed that neither are being suggested.
Well, I've also, and understand that, that's why I've gone for the geographical, and actually when Keith House sent me that, he did say about their proximity, but both the appointments that I've made are literally adjacent to Waterlooville, and to me that seemed appropriate for there. Both Councillor Todd and Jackie Porter are some distance from there, and they are on the Kings Barton Development one, which is a separate one I appreciate as well. So I'm comfortable with that decision, Adrian, but I take your point, what you're saying as well. Councillor
Is there
Chad,
a possibility of appointing a second deputy for West of Waterlooville?
Don't know. Question, I'd have to take advice on that. If there is, and we can, that's something we can certainly look at. But can we do that at the next one then, Adrian? Would that be right? Once we've investigated whether that is a possibility. Councillor Chad, comment, please. Thank you.
Can I just make the suggestion on that point that we've got a planned review of outside bodies next year, that maybe that's something, I know it's a long way away, but actually could be part of that outside body review going forward, rather than a separate piece of work.
Okay, that's really useful, Ross. Thank you very much. So, Adrian, we're starting to think about a complete review of outside bodies, just to make sure they're all functioning, how the reporting process is, who they report to. You know, some of them, you know, we've looked at before, don't even function properly after, you know, in their own right. So we're going to do a complete review, and I think that's a very sensible suggestion. Part of that process could be the member appointments that we make, and look at that, and geographically, and the interests that they have in those outside bodies. Adrian, sensible approach, happy with that?
I certainly think it's sensible to do a full review, and I support what you say about geographic location. If there was a possibility, just as an ad hoc measure, of a second deputy, that would be helpful in the interim.
Okay. So we will investigate that, but bearing in mind we're still thinking about a full review as well. Sure. Okay, all right. Okay, so the appointment stand as is then, Louise. That's okay. That's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Okay, so we now have agenda item 5, Chief Officer Delegation. I think, Gary, you're presenting that?
I am, Leader. Probably the most straightforward and procedural one of today. So this
Gary, your volume is dropping right out again. I think you might need to get closer to your machine, or put 50p in or something, whatever will help. Yes. Well, you've gone all together now. That's made it worse. We can't hear you at all now.
it should work. I will come out back in.
We can hear you just about now.
Yeah, just about.
We'll see if he drops out and comes back in again.
If we lose him completely, I can cover.
Yeah, it's a process really, isn't it, this paper? So, yeah.
It's back.
Apologies, Leader. I thought coming in and out of the meeting might help. Can you hear me now?
It does. It's perfect now, yes. Okay, great. Thank you.
Lovely. So, yeah, I don't know how much you heard of my introduction, but it's a very procedural matter. You'll note that in the January decision day, we mocked up a series of the previous delegations linked to the organisational restructure that took place on the 1st of January earlier this year. What you'll note in this is an additional change to those delegations. in terms of delegations that are currently afforded to the Director of People and Organisation, which we are proposing transition to my role as the Director of Hampshire 2050 regarding the delegated authority to approve members' grants and their devolved budgets.
Okay, great. Thank you. As I said, it really is just a lining up in terms of the delegations and under the new directorate. So I think it's just a process we've gone through. I just checked there isn't any comments from either of the members present. No. Okay. Thank you, Gary. Very short and sweet, even though you had to leave momentarily. So happy to accept the recommendations as set out in para 2 on page 37. Okay, thank you for that. We now need to look at going into exempt session. So I have to read this out for the final paper. So that the public be excluded from the meeting during the following item of business, as it is likely in the view of the nature of the business to be transacted or the nature of the proceedings, that if members of the public were present during this item, there would be disclosure to them of exempt information within paras 3 of part 1 of schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972, and further that in all circumstances of the case, the public interest in maintaining the exemption outweighs the public interest in disclosing the information for the reasons set out in the report. I'm hoping both the members would agree with that. And if that is the case, I will ask for the webcast to be stopped, please, Louise, and confirm what it has. Thank you.
Rob, you know that I don't like things being dealt with in confidential, but I totally agree that